Welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. It's been a while. Me and Josh have been doing a lot of different things. Life has taken some weird turns. And yeah, I am excited to be back, excited to be doing this again. And Josh, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks,
I've missed
man.
you.
I missed you too.
We legitimately... It's not like we don't only talk because of the podcast, but I feel like we talked more doing the podcast. So, let's kind of give for everybody because it's been 6 months, I think, since we posted. Probably, yeah, it's been a while. Let's give everybody kind of a general overview of what has been going on with us the last pretty much 2022, a little bit into 2023 so far this year.
Yeah.
So you can start with you. What you been up to, dude?
I've just been working, and
you did move to Atlanta finally. I think last time you were in the process of it.
Yeah, I think last time it was right after I moved here.
Yeah.
And so actually, I'm about to look it up just to see. Because then we could cover all the things.
Yeah. So the last time we did an episode,
September 2022. Yeah, I was in Atlanta for a little over a month. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot has changed since then. I've been doing a bunch of mixing, which is really cool. That's been a lot of fun. I started using Pro Tools again.
Oh, that's crazy. I was going to say, I know when you moved, you had to do a job transition, which was a little funky, right?
Yeah, that sucked. Well, it was last year was really weird for me because I was getting stuck in this this loop back home where I kept finding these artists to work with, but they were never really the type of artist I could put on my portfolio.
Yeah.
And it's that's fine, I guess. Everybody needs to eat, but I wasn't very content with all that. So I spent a bunch of more time in Atlanta and in Los Angeles, and just figuring out really what I want to do. And because I feel everybody's just constantly in a state of an existential crisis when they work in music. You know what I mean?
Basically.
Where it's you hear even these big producers and sure, that record sold millions of copies and it literally set me up for life. But I just don't really like it. I want to do something different.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so it's kind of funny, just working in this industry, whenever you're at the early stages of your career and trying to figure it out, and then the whole time you're just am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And so
then you're moving across the coast and having to switch jobs and find new people and all that kind of stuff. And your job kind of had you locked in and prevented from doing music for a minute. And
I was getting by, because I had quit my day job in November of 2021. I think it was November. Might have been September. It was September of 2021. And so right after I quit because I needed more time off because I was down here in Atlanta for a week and a half, and then I went to LA for a week and a half, right after it. And then I just hung out and did a bunch of work throughout the holidays. And then once springtime came around, me and my brother kind of looked at each other and were we should go to LA for a month. just
to do it.
Yeah, just to do it. And that whole trip was just awful. It was terrible. Our Airbnb, the bathroom shower backed up with poop. And then the dude blamed it on us and kicked us out. And so my friend Rob was bro, please stay with me, and then it'll cut your time in half at the Airbnb. And I was of course, I love you. That would be great.
Yeah.
And then so I hit up everybody and they were like I had no other options. And Rob was like, of course, bro, you could come back and stay with me. And so I got to hang out with him and his roommates.
That's awesome.
Like another like almost 2 weeks. I felt so bad, but everybody was super nice. And
that's cool. Shouts to Rob for being
shout out to Rob. I really want to go back to LA just so I can like eat tacos with him on the corner in North Hollywood again.
Yeah, dude.
Tacos al Tigre is fire. And so I did that whole thing, and then I was home for like a week, and I came back down to Atlanta to write more. And then I was home for like a few days, and I went up to Detroit and wrote with this artist, and that was really sick. And then right after that was kind of like, we should probably like get out of Pittsburgh, you know?
Yeah.
And so
so then you had your whole moving process to Atlanta, which took a weird span of time.
She got this really dope job with like the Atlanta Esports Initiative. So she works for Atlanta FaZe and Rain now, and like this job is so sick. Their facility is insane. But then like after like she got word of that, we were like, oh, I guess that means that we have to move. So it was like I came back from Detroit, and that was like right around it was right around Memorial Day, because I remember I was driving up there on Memorial Day, and I was like, because it was a super last minute thing. It was like, yo, like we need songs and like our schedules suck. Would you be able to come up in 2 days? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then, or like 3 days or whatever. And they're like, all right, cool. You know, let me talk to my manager or whatever. And so I didn't know anybody besides like the producer who brought me in, Paul, and he's the GOAT. And so he didn't get back to me. And so it was like Sunday, and I was like, hey man, am I coming up tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, you are. I'm so sorry. And he like Venmo'd me. And so I like went home, and I was like, well, I guess I'm leaving for like Detroit tomorrow. And everyone was like, how long are you going to be gone for? I was like, I don't know. I haven't asked that yet, but I'll be back soon. And so like I was there for like 3 days. We wrote 4 songs in 3 days. 3 of them were really good, which was rare. And it was really cool because like Jay, that's the artist's name. He like kind of had a team, but like it wasn't always like really working out, you know, and like the writers just weren't like super in tune with what he wanted. And so I went into it thinking like, okay, like they have me coming up here because of the stuff I'm doing with Justin and Lee, you know, like they want like pop punk songs, you know?
Yeah.
And like, truthfully, like I hate writing pop punk songs.
Yeah.
You know, like I do it because I feel like I can give a slightly different perspective on it, you know,
a different sound and a different flavor in general.
Yeah. But it's like the sonics and like the general, like, you know, stereotypes of pop punk, like just truly like bore me to death, you know? But I still do it all the time just because, like people seem to like it when I do it. So I went up there thinking that, and the whole time I was like, you know, this is how it's going to be. And then I kept like being like, is it okay if I do this? Like, is that too poppy? And Jay was just like, no, I love that. And I just kept doing that. He just kept going, no, I love that. And like, we got to like sit down and talk about like what's going on in his life, how he's feeling, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like, write songs that, you know, he like really
connects with. Yeah.
And so I went up there and I wrote those songs. I was like, oh, they're great. And then immediately after, I found out I had to move to Atlanta, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be cool. And so I was like, but also like, there's no shot that I'm gonna get approved for an apartment. So I emailed the one dealership down here that's a part of Lithia, and I was like, hey, if you guys are hiring, I want to work there. So I ended up getting an interview while I was down here writing. I rejected the job because it wasn't what I was looking for. But that was like before I found out that I had to move here. And
gotcha.
so I ended up emailing them. I was like, hey, I found out I'm actually like moving there soon. Can I work there? And they're like, of course. So I was like, great. Apartment is good.
Got a
Come
job.
down here, move. And I'm working at this service department at this Honda dealer, and it sucks. And I then get hit up by Jay like months later, and he's like, hey, bro, what would it take for me to come record with you and finish those songs that we wrote back in June or May? And I was like, do you want to come down here like now? I'm also going to be home for the holidays. And so he actually came into Pittsburgh while I was home for the holidays.
Oh, that's sick.
We finished those songs. The team loved them. And so we just set up, he should be coming down like next month or the month after and doing way more with not just me, but also Lee now too.
Nice.
Which is like
Getting
super,
the whole
super
team
cool.
in on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, it's also kind of funny, just like the reason why I like went so deep into the backstory is because like literally after I did that and then I moved here and I didn't hear anything, like I just thought that those songs were a wash, and I was really upset because like I loved those songs.
Yeah, they were really good.
Yeah. And so for him to hit me up, and then like now it's like, you know, the first thing that me and Lee are like working on as a team, which is really, really cool.
That's really sick. Oh yeah, and that's a kind of a new thing too for you guys. You have like a team kind of set up now, right?
Yeah, like we I remember one of the first times I came down to Atlanta, like Lee and I were working, and he was like, honestly, bro, like I feel like if you moved here and like we started working together, like we would really be able to like be like the next Take a Day trip, you know? And I was like, oh, 100%, you know? Because like I'm really good at like programming and all of like
Lee's really good at miking and drum and like live drum sounds and
dude,
like,
and like
engineering side of things.
What's wild about Lee though is like he might be one of the best engineers that I ever met, but he's also incredibly good at making fake things sound real.
He really is.
Well, I'm the complete opposite.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, oh, if I record a guitar, like, let's turn it into a synth, you know?
And, yeah. It's going to be way different.
Yeah. Like, dude, that, it like, looking back on it, like, one of the first things that we did right after I moved here was, the Take Me to Church cover that Justin put out. And I remember like, so what happened with that is like distro hit us up and they were like, hey, we want you to do that because like the song popped on TikTok. So we want a full cover.
Yeah.
And so like we started listening to it and we're like, this man didn't even record this song to a click. And also like some of these chord changes are like way too gospel.
Yeah, they're super
for us to do,
super gospel.
They wanted us to do like a full on pop punk version of it. And I was like, you can't make this song pop punk. Like that's just bad, you know?
Yeah,
and so it was literally
forced.
like we sat down at the Tucker studio and like we just like kind of just dug in and we were like, all right, like we have to do this and we have like 8 hours to do it.
Let's churn it out. Yeah.
And that was so cool. And it was really neat too, because like I was just like kind of like playing whatever instruments, you know? And like giving my like 2 cents on how things should sound, but like watching Lee like work through that and like get this super polished like big production that sounded like everything was recorded was like super cool, because like everything on it is fake besides the guitar, you know? I think we recorded bass on it too. Nice. Everything else is fake. I think I might have tracked some cymbals.
Do you guys have like you have a name for it, right?
Yeah, it's called Have a Good Day.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
because of the LA Beast.
Yeah.
That was one of the first things that we did whenever I came down here. We were just sitting there laughing about how great that dude's videos are.
Yeah.
And so we thought it would be funny if we named it that, because it's kind of hard to just be like, come work with Josh and Lee, you know? We should probably have like some sort of a name to it. So
for sure. Yeah, that's sick. Is it I think I followed it when you
the Instagram is We Hope You Have a Good Day, and the website is wehopeyouvehavagoodday.com.
That's sick. Oh yeah, I found it.
Yeah.
Sick. No, that's really cool. Yeah, everyone should go.
But, yeah. So like, did I lose you?
Follow that. Oh no.
Oh, there you are.
There you are. Yeah, everyone should go. Everyone should go follow that everywhere.
Yeah, that would be sick. And so like we're trying
Support
to like
the homies.
You know, figure out like which artists that, you know, we want to work with, that we know will do a good job with.
And if you out there feel like you're a good fit for Josh and Lee, hit them up.
Hit us up.
They're trying to get that portfolio going. So
yeah, because like we have a bunch of songs, but like we don't have a ton that are like both of us working on it, you know. Yeah, he actually helped me out finishing up this first round of songs for Jay that should be dropping like soon, which is cool.
That's really sick.
But it's also like cool. Like, I don't know. I think that that's something that's important to talk about, is like understanding like your strengths, you know, and like figuring out like when it's best to work with other people. Like the one song I did with Jay, I was like, look, I have this crazy idea. Okay. And it's going to require you to completely 100% buy into the bit of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, he's like this, you know, very, I don't want to say scene. We'll say like, you know, he's like goth boy, like
little
cool
emo
guy, right? You know,
little emo cool guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I was like, it would be so funny if we did like a really poppy song and it's all about how much you suck.
Okay,
and he was like, dude, I am all about this, you know? And so
that's sick.
So like the production of it, like it starts off with like an acoustic guitar and it sounds like you're in like a bedroom. And like I have all these like Foley sounds. So it sounds like he's like singing behind a closed door and then it opens up and you hear him, and then like,
oh, that's sick.
The idea was like we were setting it in different scenes, you know, so like
very
one
visual.
scene is like
it's almost like you're making it to have a music video with a music video in mind. That's
literally what I did. And I was like, I just want you to know this is how I think that this song should sound, you know? And but it's only going to work if you do like a funny video. Like you're in like a frat house with all these like frat dudes. And then there's just you with like your makeup on.
But the song also sells the video even more so from the jump, if you have that in mind.
Yes. And so like he was like, dude, I'm down. Like his team was down. And then like, so I finally finished the production, and then his manager was like, I don't think that we have the resources to actually do this right. Can you give us another production? So I called up Lee and I was like, hey man, so here's the deal. I just spent like a really long time on this production and I have to completely redo it and I can't hear it any other way. Can you help me out? And he was like, of course. And so like I opened up the session and he's literally sitting on his couch, like playing video games. And he's just like, all right, yeah, cut that in half. Delete that, delete that, delete that. All right, replace that sound with this. And like, that's what he did. And in literally like 2 or 3 hours, like I had a completely different production that sounded so much better and fit with the other songs too.
Oh, that's
and sick. I sent it to him and they were like, yeah, we have no revisions.
Yeah, that's sick.
I was like, cool.
Yeah.
This is why we should be doing everything together.
Exactly. No, that's sick, dude. Well, it's good. It's good to hear that, you know, you got down there, you're doing good. You and the homies are working.
Yeah, it's been cool.
You're trying to build the portfolio.
Yeah, just writing pop songs and mixing hip hop, and it's been fun. So
I think for me it's been pretty the same. So I don't think I had talked about this by the time we had done the last episode, but in November of last year, I was able to quit my coffee job. So now I'm just doing music. I've just been doing music since like October or November of last year, which is pretty cool.
I didn't know that. I thought you still worked there.
No. So I've just been doing music stuff. The only way, so this is kind of cool. The only way I was able to do it is, so I met this guy named Brad. who works at a studio in town called Studio 101. They do a bunch of like tracking things and stuff like that. And he started feeding me some like random session work, which is pretty cool. And I had basically had the conversation with him of like, hey man, I really want to quit this coffee job because my time in versus like how much I'm making is not really worth it for me. And I would rather work like a couple days less, make the same amount of money, like doing a session with you, and have more time at home to like actually finish my projects. Because what I was coming up against was I was spending time working at the coffee shop, so I wasn't able to be at home finishing my projects, and I was getting behind like a lot.
Dude, like that's like there's so many things, bro. Like, oh yeah, you know, just like keep a day job, like just don't sleep. And it's like, you can't be like properly like whenever
dude,
I was working,
I have a kid, I have to sleep.
And you're a dad. And it's like you can't be the best creative if you're constantly sleep deprived and worried about other things.
Yeah.
It, like, especially if you're like a producer, you know.
Yeah.
It's like if you're just mixing, it's like coming home like mixing a song isn't that bad.
No.
But it's like whenever I was like working full time, like there were definitely a few times whenever like I made it a point to not really take on any production work whenever I moved here, because I knew that my turnaround times would end up being longer. And I want to be known as the guy who can do a production.
Yeah, it was a struggle.
You know,
I ended up having to push a couple projects back by like probably about a month, which it worked out. I ended up taking basically a month off of work to finish up the projects, but then I was losing money, so that was a whole like give and take I had to figure out. But what ended up happening is Brad was like, "Yeah, dude, I can send you at least 2 to 3 sessions a month. That is enough basically to cover the same amount of money that I was making working 2 to 3 days a week for a month at the coffee shop." So instead of working, what would that be? 8 days a month. I'm working like 3 days a month, not at the studio. So that's that's enough like payoff for me to not have to worry about it. And it pays roughly the same as far as like the amount of work I'm doing. But it also works out that because I'm working in a studio and I do music, I'm able to like turn some of that stuff into other work, which is also really cool. So it's like I've been able to do some sound design for some people and get paid extra for that. I got a guy was coming into track and he had no plans to mix, and I talked him into using me for mixing, so that worked out. I did like a thing where a guy was building out like a studio at his house for like some basic tracking, and so he was like, "Yeah, I'll pay you to come over and just like make sure I have all my stuff set up right and kind of do a test on my room and tell me like what I need to fix and stuff." I was like, "Okay, this sounds great." So stuff like that. And it's also been really cool because he's let me do things like borrow microphones. So I have a whole mic locker that I could just have access to whenever.
What's he got though?
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's like some basic stuff, but the main thing that I really like is this it's this TLM 193.
Yeah, that's what.
It's really cool.
Weird fact. I heard somewhere that those are the voiceover mics that they used on like the first like real seasons of South Park.
Really? That's so random.
Super random. I remember hearing that somewhere, and I was like, "Huh? They were using the tiny 87 looking things for South Park."
So they're not. Yeah. They're basically, for those that don't know, it's basically like the exact body of a U87, except like half the size.
Yeah.
But it's crazy looking. But I was talking to him. I was like, "Yeah, I was looking at getting a TLM 102 or a TLM 103." And he was like, "Well, I have this TLM 193, and it's like a little better than a TLM 103 as far as like the way it sounds. It sounds a little more like a U87, honestly, because he's got one of those as well." So, but yeah, I have access to a bunch of that kind of stuff, bunch of random warm gear, bunch of random like telefunking gear. So, and he gives me a discount on like studio time because I'm the engineer. So he's like, yeah. So it kind of works out in a bunch of, you see what I'm saying? It kind of works out in like a bunch of different ways. I get the consistency of getting clients fed to me, but I also get like access to mics or gear or stuff. So shout out to Brad at Studio 101 for making this possible for me. That's been really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Outside of that, it's just been pretty much me doing that, working here, working on a bunch of projects. And
that's something that I started doing, like, because like this is like because like last year, like it was really just like do whatever I could, back home, and then whenever I moved I was working. And so right before the holidays, like they told me I couldn't have enough time off to go home, and I was like, well, like my options are I can complain to corporate, because like I worked for the same company before, and like they were still new to that brand. Like they had just gotten bought out like the year before. Oh,
gotcha.
So I was like, I know
corporate policy.
Yeah. And it's like, I was like, that was like the dealership I spent the most time with. And I did really, really well at the Toyota dealer back home. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I could go like complain, like, oh, is this how, you treat employees? Or I could just like not work there, because like the hours ended up being way longer than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that and I think we talked about it because we were trying to do podcasts around then too, whenever you got down there, and you were like, bro, I wish I could, but I am basically there from the time that I'm awake to the time it's time for me to go to bed.
Yeah, and then plus like traffic and all that.
Yeah. Well,
so it was like
general Atlanta stuff.
It was like 10, 11 hours out of my day. And so it's like, I wasn't able to do anything, Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what? Like, I picked up like a job, just doing like the broadcast mix at a church, which has been super cool. Cause I never thought that I would ever do any sort of live sound. That's been a ton of fun, honestly. Plus it's a good way to meet a bunch of people, because like the South doesn't mess around whenever it comes to church bands.
No, church production.
The one dude that
really
drums
good
for us is like the first drummer that John Mayer took out on tour.
That's funny.
Isn't that weird, dude?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I got a
these
friend,
guys are good.
So I got a friend who's in Atlanta who plays for some churches, and he's the drum tech for Coin.
Yeah.
So like just that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like,
and I think the drummer for Coin also plays in other churches, and that's kind of how they met.
Yeah, and so like it's funny because like down here it's like so many people will like work at a church just because it's like it's one extra money, but then two it's something different, you know? And so like I think,
and it's one day a week.
Yeah, and so it's like that's something that I never really thought about. It was like the more music that you do, the more everything becomes just very the same.
Well, dude, it's crazy that like very on that train of thought. It's like if you're trying to do music in any way you can, you should surround yourself with like doing music, right?
Yeah.
It's like whether it's like for you doing mixing at a church and meeting these people and like connecting, or like for me it's like I'm not trying to be a track engineer, you're not trying to do front of house or broadcast mixing, but because we're working in a music adjacent job and we can be like, yeah, I'm a producer, or yeah, I mix. It's like that, even just that is like a one step closer to being able to like broaden your network a little bit more, meet some new people. Those people can connect you with other people, or like it could be a thing where like a guitar player is doing like, working with somebody else, and he's like, oh, I need a mix. Oh, I met this dude Josh, I heard some of his stuff, it's really good, you should check him out. Like stuff like that.
That's so I'll put it this way, everybody that I've met so far at the church I work at, they only do music full time. And like the one dude that I met, he works at like the studio that like Mastodon came through and worked out of. I don't know if it's their studio or what, but like that's a pretty big name, and it's just from a dude that I met who like came through to play guitar and like do broadcast mixes when I'm not there, you know?
Well, it's really funny. Matt Goldman, who engineered and mixed like every major scene record in the mid 2000s, he works at a church. Like he does front of house for a church.
Yeah.
He does front of house for a 12 Stones campus somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like everybody, like, I don't, it's honestly really nice because one, it gets me out of bed early, which is rare. And then, it's cool just like working on stuff that I typically wouldn't work on, you know? And so that was also really nice because that alone was like, oh, well, like this, like basically covers all my bills. Like, why am I working here? And so whenever like push came to shove, I was finally just like, all right, here's my notice. You know, I'm not going to come back. Like, I got this. Like, and everybody knew, like everybody that I worked with knew that like I came down there because like I work in music, and everybody knew that I only got a job to secure my apartment.
Yeah, and to transition easier, because that was, I will say, that people don't understand if you've never moved before, especially
if you've ever moved whenever like you just spent all of your money.
Especially a long way away like that, like it's a big thing. It costs a lot of money to do it, and like, because I mean, I think, did you guys sell all your stuff, or did you bring some of your stuff?
I brought all my stuff.
You sold some of it. I remember you telling me you were selling some of your stuff, and you kind of rebought some stuff.
Yeah, well, now like the transition is really happening, but like as far as the move went, like, first of all, like we're very simple people, so it's not like we needed a ton of stuff. Like,
for sure.
But it's like we just had to get really like a couch, a bed, a TV, kitchen stuff. Yeah. But it's like still like that was a lot, you know. But it was also really nice being like, oh, like I have this job, so I can just like put it on my credit card and pay it off. Because like I was dead broke, you know, whenever we moved here. Yeah. But
you had just traveled like the last 3 months.
Yeah.
right before you moved.
Yeah, exactly. And so like it was really nice, you know, having that comfort. But then like it just came down to it. It's like I moved here to do all this stuff and I can't do any of it, so I quit. And
for sure. That makes sense.
It's been nice, like being able to do so much more.
For sure. And I will say, so that was the same thing for me with the coffee shop job. It was understood from the beginning of me having that job that eventually I was going to be gone to do music stuff. Like everybody understood it. They were like, this is not my priority. My priority is doing music production and mixing. And if I have to travel, that's what I got to do. So it was very much laid out in the beginning, and I will say that's kind of a dangerous thing to do for some jobs. Is like,
I was always upfront about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was too, but it's hard to get a job like that sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, I kind of had it different because,
and I guess I did too because I knew the guy that was hiring me. So.
Same. You know,
so it's a little different for us, but I mean, you can't just roll up and do that to like somebody you don't know.
Right. And that's like something that kind of sucks because you're always paranoid if they're just going to either not hire you or fire you over something stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? But yeah, so like that's been really cool. It was really kind of scary, you know. Like everything's been working out just fine. Like
that's great. It's funny that we both kind of went through that same transition at the same time, and I don't think we even realized we were both doing it at the same time.
Yeah, well, you know what's really funny is I guess I was so like nervous about all of it that I didn't talk about it to literally anybody. So like my parents didn't know about it until I was like casually talking about it at Christmas, and they were like, "What are you going to do for money?" And I was like, "What I've always done for money."
Yeah.
You know, like that's what I came here to do.
Doesn't change anything.
Yeah. And then, I mean, to be fair, it's not like it was just a breeze. You know,
sure.
It was very much like it was a last minute decision. But then, yeah, like even people down here, like they had no clue.
Yeah,
people that I see regularly, they're like, "Yeah, how's your job?" And I'm like, "What job?"
Yeah.
you know, because the only
No,
thing that I do
that's-
like really regularly is like I teach some drum lessons and then I do the church, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
and
to
yeah,
fill some time.
but it keeps your schedule open enough to, and those are still music adjacent things, so that still count. You know what I mean,
dude? I honestly didn't realize how much I miss teaching drums. Like I love
Till you
teaching
started
drums.
again?
Yeah, I'm also teaching guitar right now, which I kind of hate.
I feel like teaching drums would be way more fun, more active.
It's not as fun. I think it's because like my understanding of the instrument is way further, you know. So it's like whenever I see someone who hasn't played drums before, I'm like, all right, so this is how you hold a pair of sticks. If you don't hold them right, I'm going to be upset. And then like these are the exercises that we're going to do. And they're like, but I want to play Nirvana. I'm like, I want to play Nirvana too, but we're not doing that.
Yeah. We can get there, and I promise you, we will play Nirvana at some point.
Yeah, and so
But-
I kind of have to catch myself because I feel like I could be a little bit too like technique oriented with percussion.
Yeah, but you also went through the whole technique. There's like a time of going through, and this is the same for music production, right? It's like there's a time where in order to do the crazy stuff and try things and like do all of the wild things that you see online, you kind of need that foundational like understanding of the basics to build on.
And like I was talking to I was talking to Madeline about this because I was like, I feel like I'm a bad instructor. And she's like, why? And I was like, because like as much as I like try to keep everything fun, like it always comes back to like if you aren't doing the basics right, then like we only need to focus on that, you know? Because like whenever I was learning, like it was very much like you don't get to have fun until you can like play these things properly, you know? And I realized the biggest reason why I'm like that is because my guitar instructors, whenever I was a kid, they didn't teach me anything about music theory. Like it was like, here's some scales. They didn't even really teach me about chord progressions or anything like that. Or
like basic music theory stuff.
Nothing, dude. Like literally nothing. It was all just like tab. And it was like, this is a scale that you could play over this chord progression. And like, they aren't telling me why.
That's a very jazz theory kind of approach.
Yeah. And it was just like, I started producing and then I realized I knew nothing about building chords. Like I was just lost. I failed my music theory class in high school. The teacher, I'm pretty sure just like pity passed me because she liked me. So it was like, it sucked, but like my understanding of rhythm is something that I still use every single day.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, I would argue that modern music is more based on rhythm than it is, at least from a production standpoint, than it is melody. I would argue.
All I'm going to say is Taylor Swift has used the 1 5 6 4 chord progression like 33 times.
And very similar melodies.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, but as far as like, you know, every time I'm like working on drums in front of people, they're always like, man, like, how did you know that that's what it's going to sound like? I'm like, because like I've had to write music.
Yeah. I've had to do this a lot.
And I wish I had that same experience with some form of like, I wish I took piano lessons, you know?
Yeah, I did.
So
I started on piano when I was 3.
Yeah. And so it's like whenever I'm teaching, I think I just have this mindset of like, what's the percentage of like kids who are still going to be playing this instrument whenever they're my age?
Yeah, pretty low.
Probably like 5 to 10%.
Yeah.
But now if they're still playing at my age, what are the chances that they're doing it professionally or semi-professionally?
Probably pretty high.
Pretty high.
Or at least like for money in like a church or something like that.
Yeah. And so it's like, why, like, you know, like if you want to learn an instrument, let's teach you how to do it right. So it's something that you can use forever.
For sure.
You know? And I get it. Like music is supposed to be fun, but
it'll also weed out the ones that don't want to do it really fast though.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to my mom about it, you know, and she was like, Josh, like whenever I took piano lessons, it wasn't so I could just go have fun. It was so I could get better. And I was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. If you want to do that for fun, you can just get on a drum, listen to a song and just like play it.
Because I think a lot of parents just kind of look at it as like a sport, you know, or it's like, oh, my kid sucks at basketball, but it gets him out of the house. Something else to do, you know?
Yeah. Like an extracurricular.
And it's like, that's fine, but like, you know, I don't know. Everybody doesn't have to be good at something, but it's also like, I feel like I'm stealing people's money if I'm not making them better, you know?
I agree. I would agree. Yeah. If you're not doing your best to make them the best that they can be, then you're not doing your job right. Yeah.
But that's been really cool. It gets me out of my element. You know, it's not every day that I'm working with an artist where mid-session they just stop what they're doing and start showing me their collection of baseball cards.
That's pretty sick.
So that was really cool. I was teaching a paradiddle to a kid, and he goes, "Hang on one second." And I was like, "Okay, like what's gonna go? Like what's about to happen?" You know, because like kids are unpredictable, and like
kids
I'm
are
always
wild, bro.
I'm always afraid that like a kid is just gonna be like, "Hang on," and like stand up and like vomit everywhere, you know, And no, he reached into his pocket and he pulled out a fat stack of baseball cards. He's like, "Can I show you my baseball cards?" And I was like, "Of course, you could show me your baseball cards."
Yeah, dude.
He showed me every single one.
You know what, kid? It sounds like you really like baseball cards. You should go do that.
Yeah, I was like, do you like playing baseball? He's like, "No, I don't play baseball. I just really like baseball." And I was like, "Okay."
Like collecting, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, "Do you really like playing drums?" And he goes, "Sort of." He's like 8 years old, you know.
That's
like,
amazing. That's amazing.
Like I was like, man, I wish I was 8 again.
Bro, I wish. But yo, I think we're at a good time. Let's call this an episode, and we'll come back next week and talk about like we have a couple things we actually want to talk about.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here, Josh, and catching up with me. Just doing a general, you know, here's what's been going on. Hopefully everybody learned a little bit from like our last couple months that we've been grinding away and doing the thing.
Yeah, it's been weird.
Yeah.
It's been real weird.
Yeah, it's been real weird. A weird 6 to 8 months. But yeah, thanks for being here, Josh. Listeners, thank you for listening. If you haven't, check us out on Instagram at Home Studio Hangout. I am at Music by Drew. Josh is at Josh Wright Songs.
It's just my name now.
Is it just your name now? Damn it, Josh. It says Josh Matotek again.
Yeah.
All right. And then check out Josh's, what's the app for?
We hope you have a good day.
We hope you have
just
a good
go
day.
follow that one.
Yeah, go follow.
Just do
go
that.
Go follow. Have a good day at We Hope You Have a Good Day. Josh and Lee's new little writing group that they're trying to put together, and they're working on getting their stuff for. If you haven't subscribed, you should do that because it helps our numbers and it helps remind you when we drop an episode. So because we're going to try to be doing this a little more regularly now. Yeah, and then if you're so inclined, hit us up if you want to make any substantial donations to the cause. Yeah, we would appreciate it. That would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, well, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.